Secretary of Defense General James Mattis announced today he'll be leaving his post, quitting in February after 2 years on the job. In his resignation letter, Mattis pointed toward policy disagreements he has with the president. He addressed the president directly in the letter, writing, quote, "Because you have the right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours, I believe it is right for me to step down from my position." The announcement came as something of a surprise. It also came shortly after the president's equally surprising announcement he's withdrawing U.S. troops from Syria, a deeply unpopular decision among permanent Washington. Mattis reportedly opposed that withdrawal as well as a potential drawdown of American forces in Afghanistan. In a statement on Twitter, the president said this, quote, "General Mattis was a great help to me in getting allies in other countries to pay their share of military obligations. A new Secretary of Defense will be named shortly. I greatly thank Jim for his service." Well, it may seem surprising that the president is breaking with one of his top advisors, but there's another way to look at it. President Trump was told the U.S. could defeat ISIS and then leave Syria. Once it did, the U.S. did that. Now everyone in Washington is demanding he stay in Syria to counterbalance Russia and Iran. Last year, the same people told him that sending troops back to Afghanistan would greatly improve things in that country. That turned out to be completely false. The situation there seems worse than ever. And of course, for 2 years, the president has been told that if he'd just be patient, he'd have his border wall. How did that turn out? He apparently is not paying heed to their advice anymore. The administration today issued a strong condemnation of a major foreign power that routinely hacks American infrastructure, steals national secrets, technology, personal information in huge quantities. The director of the FBI called this country the greatest long-term threat to America's well-being. China misread that. For more than 2 decades now, of course, it has always been China, America's greatest geopolitical rival. You wouldn't know that, though, from watching television. Even this week, with this new news about China, there's only one foreign power on the radar considered a threat. You know what it is.
The Russians exploited a massive backdoor into the foundation of our democracy.
Moscow's attack on American democracy.
The work by Russian agents to try to destabilize American democracy.
It's everything you need to know about the threat to our democracy.
The long-term damage is going to be to weaken our democracy.
You have Republicans who are silent and seemingly okay with this kind of attack on our democracy.
People are so stupid, it's amazing they're employed. Michael Pillsbury, not stupid and employed, director of the Center for Chinese Strategy, the Hudson Institute, author of the remarkable book, The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower, a strategy no longer secret thanks to his book. Mr. Pillsbury joins us tonight. Thank you very much for coming on. So this seems like a confirmation, this announcement today, of what we may have known, but still striking.
Yes, I think when the director of the FBI calls China our main rival, and then specifically said their goal is to replace us as the global superpower. That's the subtitle of my book.
Yes.
So it's not just good news for me, though, Tucker. It shows the recognition of the problem of China is now getting quite widespread.
Give us a scale of the hacking efforts by the Chinese government here.
Well, they're number one by far, more than the Russians. They have a number of techniques, some of which were revealed today, formally classified matters. There's this wonderful term I hope you'll start using called Stone Panda. It's the code name for the Chinese unit that's been doing this.
Sounds like a restaurant, but I like it.
And it seems to, according to this declassified material, it seems to go back 12 years. It seems to focus on American companies. The data that they've stolen can help them in negotiations, business negotiations with American companies. They also get trade secrets. It's massive, and it seems to be focused on the high-end technology sectors that China would need to dominate by 2030 or 2035 in order to be the world leader. So in other words, they're going to steal their way to global leadership. Let's put it that way. It's more polite than domination. And the FBI is blowing the whistle today, along with the Deputy Attorney General. The pity is, as you know from our local press, there's been a big leak that Steve Mnuchin and the Treasury Department were going to offer sanctions today as punitive for these things that the DOJ and the FBI are finding. For some reason, at the last minute, Treasury pulled out. So they weren't at the announcement, and they're not putting the sanctions forward. So this leak shows dissent inside the Trump team. And of course, the Chinese have a strategy that Vice President Pence spoke about back in October, that they want to divide the Trump administration. They know they're hawks and doves. So this is good news. It raises public awareness for what China is up to. But there were no actual sanctions announced other than the indictment of these two Chinese hackers out of a possible 10,000 hackers, let's say.
Meanwhile, there are calls for more Russia sanctions.
Yes,
it just tells you
absolutely.
everything. Michael Pillsbury, thank you very much for this and all you've done on this topic.
Thanks, Tucker.